Targets acquired. With the announcement of Counter-Strike 2 and the release of the limited beta playtest, Valve has excited hardcore gamers worldwide. With its advanced sub-tick update architecture, cleaner and fully overhauled visuals, and new map designs backed by the glorious Source 2 engine, CS2 is looking mighty good right about now. And while most of us won't be able to get our hands on the early pre-release, we can at least take a few steps back and pass the time with a bit of retrospective. From the series' inception to the rocky development road some of the game went through, we've gathered plenty of explosive trivia and development details that will make any counter-terrorist proud. So, let's dive in, Scouts! It's hardly surprising for a series that began as nothing more than one university student's Half-Life mod to eventually go on to have a history of troubled production and scrapped ideas. I mean, you don't have to look further than Condition Zero, which was rebooted not once, but twice. The game's origin can be traced all the way back to the now defunct Rogue Entertainment. After some, let's say bitter relations with Electronic Arts and a swift cancellation of their PlayStation 2 port of American McGee's Alice, the studio was approached by Gabe Newell, the CEO of Valve. Newell suggested the idea of a single-player campaign with the gameplay of Counter-Strike, and after negotiations, an agreement was reached to begin production in April 2001. Despite Rogue's crunch efforts to present material at E3 2001, the lead producer, Jim Molinet, unexpectedly left the company just a month into development. While Rogue claimed that this would not impact the project, Valve felt, in their own words, betrayed and were unsure of Rogue's ability to handle the project, leading to its first cancellation in May 2001. This decision hastened the dev studio's decline, which was obviously not helped by the sheer frustration the employees must have felt. And remember, this was only the beginning. Following their work on the Half-Life expansions, Gearbox Software came to an agreement with Valve to take over the development of Condition Zero from Rogue. Unfortunately, since we just couldn't have a happy story, the development progressed for the worst in 2002 as Gearbox and Valve had disagreements regarding the project's direction. See, what Gearbox had created was this arcadey campaign consisting of disjointed levels and challenges, while the guys at Valve aimed for a connected, story-driven campaign similar to that of Half-Life. You have to remember that this was right after Half-Life basically blew everyone's minds, especially when it came to what first-person storytelling in gaming could do. Despite continuing development in this new direction for most of 2002, Gearbox lacked enthusiasm for the project, especially since the teams were busier with stuff like Nightfire and Halo Combat Evolved. So we figure you already know how this ends. Our pals at Gearbox withdrew from Condition Zero by July of 2002. In fact, it wasn't until a third studio by the name of Ritual that the game would finally see the light of day, only for it to be met with lukewarm reception. But okay, you probably had enough of Condition Zero for one day, so let's go back even further to the first entry. Version 1.6 features heads-up display icons for several weapons and gear that were not included in the actual game, such as flares and even a rocket launcher of all things. Oh, and some gas grenades and molotovs, the latter of which would eventually be added to Global Offensive. Speaking of Go, the now infamous Steam cash cow originally started out as nothing more than a minor update of Counter-Strike Source for the Xbox 360. Did you also know that Global Offensive was supposed to have several factions that didn't make it to the final game? The Arctic Avengers and Guerrilla Warfare from previous games were among them, as well as new factions like the Yakuza and the Georgian Riot Police. Interestingly, concept art also exists for female terrorists and counter-terrorists for several factions, but it wasn't until the introduction of agents that players could finally choose to play as female characters. And despite these cuts, Go ended up being the biggest name in gaming, and for good reason. Besides inspiring tons of Chinese copies, Go's popularity was cemented by its availability as a boxed physical copy. We know what you're thinking, box copy? Since when? Well, as a matter of fact, this release was done only in Russia, India, and certain Southeast Asia countries and contained region-locked discs for both the Windows and Mac versions of the game. This whole region-lock fiasco was repeated only once. We're of course referring to the Neo sub-series that was exclusive to Japan. Both Neo and Neo White Memories were effectively Counter-Strike meets anime. And if that sounds weird to you, then you're not prepared for this. In an attempt to garner some attention from Japanese gamers, Valve worked with Namco to create an arcade netcafe adaptation of CS featuring a unique storyline and, stay with us, visual novel spin-offs. Yes, Counter-Strike visual novels, done in Adobe Flash, because why not? Spanning 12 episodes and featuring an original extended soundtrack, Neo White Memories is about as anime as you can get. What with its amnesiac main character, love subplots, and mix of tonal whiplash in the form of gritty violence and cutesy art. We hope you enjoyed this sidetrack into some of the lesser known parts of Counter-Strike. Feel free to share any CS trivia that you know of, and please let us know which Counter-Strike did you grow up with. If you're a massive fan of competitive gaming and equally competitive trivia, be sure to like and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.
Game over.